feel enormously animated. I feel enormously privileged to be here today. Thank you so much. So I want to start by taking you through a whirlwind tour of the enterprise of design through the lens of the bathroom. And I want to start with graphic design. So this is a silkscreen fly in the back of a urinal that started in an airport in Amsterdam and purportedly reduced the amount of spillage by 80%. So this is, I guess, premised on the notion that men are idiots, and that if you give them something to aim at, they'll aim at it, kind of rendering this thing probably not a great idea in a men's bathroom anyway. Designers are beautiful marriage brokers between form and function. So everyone knows that it's ridiculous to flush a toilet with drinking water. So this combines a washing machine that uses gray water to flush the toilet. It's really great. The form and function thing isn't so obvious sometimes. It took me a second to parse the whole pattern of this. Put this here, I guess. And then I have the presence of mind to take a picture, so I don't really know what I'm doing there. Designers love ergonomics. I would never touch this thing. I certainly wouldn't touch the underside of this thing. But designers are really, really inventive. This is called the topener. And so you can see over here that I don't know why this isn't ubiquitous. I think this is a great idea. You can open the door with your foot. Well, designers are interaction designers now. This is old. But number one, number two, read paper. I like that. It's the future of reading. And so we have a very recent iPhone app, the Have To Go. So this will help you find a toilet. And designers have environmentalists, and they love making furniture out of cardboard. So the shitbox. There are bricoleurs. And well, this is actually from just last Thursday night. A student of mine, Jose Frenetta, did a Louis Vuitton pooper scooper. So it says, we even thought about the dog's waste, and here it is in advertising introducing the Louis Vuitton Baxter waste bags, environmentally responsible and stylish, all in the same package. Pretty nicely done. So this my daughter and I call the potty bus. We saw this in Times Square only once, and I can't believe I don't have the image, but presumably when everyone's sitting in their seat in the potty bus, it looks like they're all in the toilet. So I just have to say congratulations to us as a culture, as a community, as a discipline, that we have created a brand experience like this. This says this washroom was most recently cleaned at, and then the date and the time. I am not a professional, but when I walk into a public bathroom, I kind of know how recently it's been cleaned. So this is not for me. This is about not trusting your staff. This is about making them check in, presumably with an RFID tag on this device. This is like a bad product. And then a really great product. This is at the American Girl doll store. So one of the elements of the subculture of American Girl doll stores is you actually take your American Girl doll to the store to buy outfits and other kinds of things like that. And so this is a really considerate gesture, I think, by the designers. So when you go to the bathroom, you can hang up your doll and do your little business. So that's a lot of design enterprise, and a lot of it is dubious. And so the talk that I have for you today is called At Your Service, From the Presumptions of Design to the Products of Design. And so what I want to argue is that the presumptions of design are often in conflict with the desired outputs of design. And put more simply, what designers think they're supposed to be doing may not match up with what they ought to be doing. I'm going to go really fast. For those of you who know me, I'm going for a personal record, 120 slides in 20 minutes. Thank you, Dave, backstage, who's like hitting the forward button. So let's start with the best example of all. This is in the New York City subway. This is two women enjoying a song on the same iPod. I wouldn't expect them to argue that the sound quality is going to be good in this thing. But a designer looks at this situation, at this problem space, and does a needs assessment and feels the need to make a design intervention in the form of this. Right? So David, if you could go back one. So they kill this to put out this. And so the presumption of design here is utility and connection. The product of design is a broken ritual. I don't believe that the designers thought that they were doing something bad. They didn't think about it, though. This happens all over the place. Let me give you an example. This is on the west coast of Canada. This is a restaurant where when you take out, you use these Chinese food containers. But when you eat in, the conceit is that you actually eat from these Chinese food containers in the restaurant, which is kind of great, right? And this is on the west coast, so they're doing a lot of recycling. And so there's a recycling station here, but they want you to recycle the metal, right? And on the right is this. So I'm pretty good with a pair of pliers. It is next to impossible to take one of these things apart. I mean, really, really difficult. And I'm thinking this is the silliest, sustainability gesture I've ever seen in my life. But when I think about it some more, I actually think that it's kind of great. Because if you want this experience, right, that we all see on television, which frankly is kind of great, actually, in real life, then you pay that amount of labor, that this is quite reasonable. And so the presumption of design and sustainability, the product of design, I thought was just a foolishness. But now I think it's really a fair exchange. This kind of thing makes me crazy. So this is a plant checking system. This was part of the Core 77 Greener Gadgets design competition a couple years ago. And so, it's solar powered, and you plant it in your planter, and it tells you if your plant is like hungry or thirsty or not feeling so good. And I just want to kill when I see something like this, because we have a plant health indicator device. It's called the plant. And designers, Designers, they can't help themselves. They cannot see this at all. Every little everything is just an opportunity to stick their finger in. And so this is my daughter's toy that she really likes, Project Runway, fashion design sketch portfolio. On the right, they're making a really big deal about tree-free colored pencils, right? 10 tree-free pencils. So I guess tree-full pencils are bad, okay? Okay. But then below it, with a straight face, they give you 4 rubberized lead grips that presumably you're going to throw out. We did this. This is with a straight face. This is madness. This is fully designed by us. This isn't an accident. This isn't like a developer without an architect kind of scenario. The presumption of design of these last examples is value. The product of design is absolute insult. So this is Levi's waterless jeans. This is recent. So what if your jeans could save you up to 2,600,000 toilet flushes, 533,000 average showers, 67 million glasses of water, which translates into 16 million liters of water, and then you click ahead to the site, and it says, what if your jeans could save you 16 million liters of water? The average pair of jeans uses 42 liters of water in the finishing process. The Levi's waterless line can reduce this by up to 96%. A pair of rigid waterless 501s uses less than 1 liter. Okay, my jeans don't save 16 million liters of water, and I don't save 16 million liters of water. You, Levi's, save 16 million liters of water, but you're not telling us that, right? You're not bragging about that. And I can only presume, like Nike went outside to design their first green shoe, that they're afraid to demonize their other products. If this is their green gene, what does that make all of their other genes? And I just have to say to all of you, to all of us, that we have to get over this. This world isn't going to change in a week, and it's not going to change in a month, and not every SKU is going to flip this year. But we have to be proud of some of the great stuff that we do. So they're not proud of this, but they're proud of this. Right? Of lighting fireworks off in your hands. Right? Go forth. Can we all do that? I think that if you see something you like at this conference, you should thank you. You should like do this. Right? Go forth. This is from David Owen, who wrote a book about, a lot about how, Manhattanites are like the most sustainable people because of density, and we don't have cars, and we go shopping for food all the time. But he talked about sort of the silliness of using the indicator in the hybrid car as a plant. And it gets better than that, and there's just a short little clip.
There's a reason for the sunshine sky, and there's a reason why I'm feeling so high. Must be the season.
You get more power and more space. The world gets fewer smartphones.
I'm going to stop it. Okay, you are literally planting flowers as you drive in this commercial. And so David says that as if driving were a virtuous act, which is amazing. Driving is bad. Cars are bad, right? And look at what we've done. Look at how sophisticated this is. For these examples, the presumption of design is environmental stewardship, but the product of design is this incredibly nuanced, almost sinister misdirection. If we take a couple years back, this is something I really want to make. I like this kind of stuff. We have a lot of this stuff on our blog at Core 77. This is a Castiglione lamp rendered with a cinder block, which I really love. This is a Serif tote bag, which probably a lot of this audience has seen before and wants to go buy right now. If you haven't, buy two for please, somebody, because I actually didn't get one. A couple years ago, there were the Olympics in the city of Vancouver. Of course, a lot of people in the city weren't happy about that, like people in most Olympic cities aren't. And so this is one of the ways they reacted. This is great, graphic design at its best. And then we have the upcoming 2012 Olympics. You can start laughing now, but you've all seen this. Yeah. So I won't leave that up too long. Yeah. So the presumption of design here is subversion, right? It's overt. But I love this kind of design because the product of design for me is just like relief. It's just like people like messing with stuff because we're like tired of being marketed to. We have these superpowers as designers, and we can actually like do something that isn't in the service of industry. So I want to show you a little bit of student work, my favorite thing to do in the world. These are projects from a course I teach. It's like a product design crash course at the School of Visual Arts, an MFA designer's author program shared by Stephen Heller and Lita Tallarico. I've been teaching there for about 4 years. And so this is the very beginning of the semester. The students don't know each other. They don't know me, and this is a 3-week project. And the assignment was to redesign the next thing you throw out. And so Lean threw out a toothbrush, and she got really interested in this Miswick stick over here. And so she created a brand and packaging. And, well, here it is. And I asked my students to do an ad campaign for the products. Again, this is a 3-week project. A lot of these students have never made anything in their lives because they can kind of do this stuff in their sleep. And then I also asked them to make multiples of the product and photograph it in the retail environment. So you can see, like, compared to the Oral-B beside it, it's just sort of unbelievable. And I actually worked on a version of this Oral-B toothbrush. And so the students in the class, and again, it's brand new, are looking at this photo and saying, you're going to make $1 million. And I have to say, well, actually, I'm not sure that you can make this product. She says, why not? I said, well, there's more packaging than there is product here. And so Lean says to me, quite innocently, well, people can reuse the test tube. And I said, well, Lean, are people going to reuse the test tube? And she said, probably not. And I said, well, there's actually like a moral reason here. It's like the product itself is literally a stick. It's a biological nutrient. It's bad enough that we're packaging this Oral-B, co-injection molded, thing in all of its plastic casing. But this is kind of like the only product that you can't package. It's like, it's ethical. And so, the students are sitting there thinking, this is going to be a really long semester. So Lean puts it in our online portfolio. It gets picked up by the Dialine, fantastic site. Then it gets picked up by Gizmodo and goes wildfire on the internet. She's like, 48 hours of like internet fame. And what's interesting to me is that the comments are amazing because the comments are, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. There's more packaging than there is product here. I can't believe this was one for a school project. Whoever was the teacher of this class should be fired, and not let near young people. And other comments are, this woman isn't going to be a millionaire, she's going to be a billionaire because billions of Muslims around the world use a miswick stick to clean their mouths before they pray each time during the day. Still raging. And of course, Lean is getting solicitations from lots of companies who want to manufacture this product. But I'm over her shoulder going like, you can't. So the presumption of design for this is expanded market. She took like this millennial-old product and packaged it, essentially for a Western audience, a modern audience. But the product of design is paradox here. We have to see that, though. It wasn't easy to see. This is Maya Lee's project. In 16 years of teaching, this is probably the best thing I've ever seen. So the thing that she threw out next was a lollipop wrapper. And so she did a bunch of sketches and a bunch of models, and again, she never did this stuff. And this is what she created. And I actually asked her to photograph it again, because I wanted to show it in talks. And this is how it works. So students in the class are going, you are going to make $1 million. Right? And I said, well, hold on. What now, right? I said, well, I will give you that it is like unacceptable to put a lollipop down like on a counter or on a dish, that we must create a product to solve this problem. But this won't work. This thing's made out of paper, and when the lollipop dries and you peel it off the paper, it's going to have pieces of paper on it. To which the class responds, make it out of plastic, right? So now we have a whole bunch of multicolored discs, made out of silicone in our dishwashers. So the presumption of design is utility. She thought she was making something useful. The product of design is delight. This product does not have to exist to be awesome, right? It can just be awesome. It can be awesome on a blog post. It can be awesome here with an incredible group of people. It doesn't mean that it's not a great piece of design. This presumption that everything has to be mass-produced and that everything has to be commercialized has really got to stop. I did a project with students a couple years ago called the Prosthetics Project. A ton of this is online. I'm just going to show you just a couple projects. One straight one. We had John Cunningham come and kick off the project. He had lost his arm in Iraq. And we had Amy Mullins, who you may be familiar, come and speak to the students. And so they were really inspired and really afraid. And John actually brought this demonstrator arm with him. Just a couple projects. So this student was really was a swimmer, and she was really interested in swimming, and she was really horrified by the state of the art of swimming prosthetics. And so she created a brand. Again, they do this really quick, and learned how to sew, learned how to pattern make, and found a fashion design student to help her, and created this upper body garment that uses tension and compression that, frankly, many swimmers would want to use. Was her anecdotal discovery. This one is more problematic, though. So do you know this toy, Tubers and Sots? It's like foam-covered wires that you bend around. And so Mariana Ochoa just basically co-opted this brand and created Tubers and Sots interactive arms. And this is how it works. Yeah. And so the resistance or the objection here is that this student can't eat, SpaghettiOs with this prosthetic arm. But this kid can play swords with this prosthetic arm. And for a kid, that's really, really important. What's fascinating to me about this project is that the majority of time that a prosthetist spends in life is negotiating this fit between the stump and the socket. It's always custom, it's like irritated, it's sweaty. You can imagine. And nobody except some design student in class in a graphic, a program that attracts a lot of strong graphic designers is ever going to think of just wrapping it around, this works sort of on any old stump, right? And I like this scenario in retail environment where it's like, mommy, I want the prosthetic arm, and the mom's like, no, I'm sorry, you can't have that, it's not for you. You have two arms. And it flips the privilege of what cool toy the cool kid gets. Right? She didn't make anything. She made a tag, right? And it's missing a barcode. Can help her with that, right? She didn't manufacture anything. She stole someone's product and turned it into this design enterprise that is amazing. Amy actually came to the finals of this thing, and again, I would like to show you more of these projects, but she said that there was more innovative thinking in prosthetic design in 10 weeks than there had been in 100 years, and she knows a lot about it. This is a project I did around girls and women last year with these same students, inspired by Nick Kristof and Shara Wudon's amazing book, Half the Sky. I'm just going to show you one project from that, Rosina Bosco's Tress Up. Rosina had discovered that one of the sort of anxiety points in a family where the parent is undergoing chemotherapy is that the kids are really worried about what happens when their parent loses their hair. And so she spoke to one woman, Wendy McCool, who had promised her kids that when her hair fell out that they could paint her head. And this really resonated with Rosina. And so she came in the next week with this sort of horrible, wonderful prototype. And so it was like a kit of materials to decorate a head with. And this was a very long class because you didn't know how to feel about this. Again, a lot of the projects I've shown you tonight, they were right on the line between sort of, good and evil. We didn't know if this was flip, if it was disrespectful, if it was insightful. But she met with Wendy 3 more times. She met with a couple other survivors, and she created this incredible thing. And it was around, she says it, facilitating conversation. And just so that it's not missed, its form factor takes its reference from the hat box. So it's really beautiful. I showed this project at a talk at Maker Faire, and one of the guys came up to me after and said that his parents had promised him the same, his mother had promised him the same thing. It's really, really touching. The presumption of design in these projects that I've shown you from the students is problem solving. The product of design here is permission, that the students felt that they could actually use their design talents their point of view, their energy towards projects that were beyond what they thought their purview, their territory was supposed to be. This is probably the most amazing thing that you can give somebody, a colleague, a young designer. So when we compress this notion of products of design even further, we can see that this is a product of nature, but it's also a product of teamwork. We can see that this amazing photograph by Edward Bertinsky, Canadian photographer. Canadians always tell you they're Canadian, so I didn't even have to. So I can out another Canadian. So this is a poultry manufacturing plant. This is where your chicken comes from. And so this is a product of appetite. This is the iPad. The marketing people for their first iPad really got it right because they showed the body, right? They never showed the head, actually, and they barely showed the machine. You knew that it was this magical device, but they showed the body and all these reclining postures. This is a product of posture. That's why it's different. It's where you use it. In fact, when Steve Jobs introduced it, he was in a Corbeau comfort chair, the Saarinen table. It was about sort of where his body was. Thank you, Steve. This is This is the BP oil disaster. This is a product of addiction. This is a UK student's product of resignation. Kevin Scott is the designer. I think he got tired of buying bicycle locks, so he just turned his whole bike into a fucking bicycle lock. And so it wraps around poles. This is really great. Yeah. And this is where I started. This is Matt Brown, who does these fictional stories at Core 77. This is Carlo Heckman, who invented the Heckman method. Again, it's called design fancy. He makes up these stories. He actually designs the props and photographs them. This looks very, very real. So Carlo Heckman came up with this amazing way of reimagining birthday candles. And yeah, so you've got four down and one across. And then, of course, what happens is you light the diagonal candle and it lights them all on fire, and it's this big fiasco. And the guy goes broke. It's terrible. A heartbreaking story. It's a product of overthinking. Designers, I'm using this metaphorically, and in some ways literally, designers do this all of the time, right? But we just don't see it. We need to see it ourselves, of course. So to sum up, the products of design can reveal our motives, our priorities, our culture. But we, as the producers of design, have to reconcile our motives, our priorities, and our culture. And I think in order to do this, we have to acknowledge two things. The first is that we're no longer living in a world of objects and things. We are living in a world of flows and negotiations. This was probably always true. We're only seeing it now because we're getting a lot of feedback from natural systems and from culture that's telling us that what we're doing isn't working, right? It means moving from a world of static problems and solutions to dynamic problem spaces. So in the old days, you would have a problem, and then you'd have a solution, and you would solve the problem. Next problem, please. But that's just unbelievably naive. And I'm not even certain that the word solution isn't a little bit arrogant. I think that right now we have to understand that these problem spaces are dynamic. They're living. They are fundamentally systemic. They are organic. They have to be, I don't know if they can be solved. They have to be negotiated. And this requires a different kind of fluency. It requires, I think, a lot of confidence and some bravery. But it requires us first to acknowledge that this is the terrain we have to navigate now. The second acknowledgement is a drum I've been beating for a while now, which is that designers think they're in the artifact business, but they're not. They're in the consequence business. And that artifact can be an ad campaign, it can be a logo, it can be a brochure, and it can be a mass manufactured product. But if you're making more than one of something, you are in the consequence business. Designers make consequence. When you understand that, a critical thing happens. You change the question from what do you want to make to what do you want to do. And when you can have clarity around what you want to do, then what you make sort of surfaces more easily, more naturally, with more validity. But I wouldn't stop here today. So I think that there's actually a third, better question, which is who do you want to be? And this is a question that brands are asking themselves all the time. If they can figure out who they want to be, then they can figure out what to do. And if they figure that out, then they can figure out what to make, right? So the typical design process, we think, is from making the artifact out, when it actually needs to be from this more sort of holistic, who do you want to be? And then the rest of it will surface back through. So I want to be a person who helps younger people really feel and find their power. So I am creating a new MFA program that's going to have its first students in the fall of 2012. And I wanted to share this with you. We're really excited about it. This is the URL. We actually have an open house coming up on November 5th. So if you are around in New York or you know someone who ought to be, I would love to see you and talk to you about that. This is me, and this is for you. Thank you.